I'd like to welcome you to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. Thomas Pointer, Tuesday, February 28th, 2012. Tomorrow you leave for Africa.
Yes, more specifically Ghana in West Africa. More, yes, more
I
specifically.
got you. What towns are you going to? Accra?
The capital, Accra, Tima, Kumasi. I'm going to try to go throughout the entire country. I want to see the whole country. I want to capture everything about the country, the culture, the politics, the everyday going ons of typical Ghanaians. That's what I want to do. This is the trip of a lifetime. This is something I've always wanted to do, and finally the opportunity has presented itself. And I'm going to take this trip and try to talk to as many people as possible to see what's going on, particularly with the business opportunities there. There's a very strong expatriate community of African Americans who relocated to Ghana. And I want to interview a lot of them and see how they were accepted there, what adjustments they had to make when they relocated to Ghana. So that's the purpose of this trip, helping to dispel the many misconceptions that so many of us have about Africa and particularly Ghana. That's
Have you traveled outside the country before?
no. This is my first trip, my very first trip.
Why'd you pick Ghana?
I've always had a fascination and love affair with Ghana, and it was based on reading the autobiography of Malcolm X. I remember Malcolm X talking about so many different countries on the continent of Africa he had visited, and then the relationship he had established with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was the prime minister and president of Ghana during independence, 1957, and
The first country in Africa to get independence.
exactly from colonial powers in 1957, Ghana was, and so that's what began my fascination with Ghana.
When you share with African Americans the story of Africa, do you find any African Americans amazed that there are over 54 countries in Africa and only one of them, Ethiopia, was never colonized by Europeans? Do African Americans that you share your story with, your dream of going after, what do they think of Africa?
Well, the fact that you said there are over 54 countries, that's funny because depending on whom you ask, there's no set number on how many countries there are in Africa. Sudan, the largest country on the African continent geographically, is now two countries, Sudan and then South Sudan, and then the disputed territory in Morocco. You have Morocco, and then you have Western Sahara or Shawara Republic, which was independent in the 1970s, but then lost its autonomy to Morocco. So Morocco has control over Western Sahara, but the United Nations and the African Union recognized the Western Sahara as one country, but Western Sahara doesn't have full independence. And then when we travel to the far east of Africa, Somalia, many of us are familiar with Somalia, but don't realize that during the 1990s, Somalia broke up into three countries. You have Somalia, then the transitional federal government of Somaliland, and then Puntland. So Somalia is actually three countries, but when you check the UN or you check any other international bulletin, they only recognize that one country that's seated in Mogadishu. But when you talk to typical people on the street and you ask them, give me 10 countries on the African continent, and a lot of us will struggle to name 10 when, just as you said, there are over 50, almost 60 countries on the African continent, if not more than that. But a lot of people would say things like be safe, be careful, and I can understand that because the media onslaught that we get with respect to Africa has been poor. Some of us are misinformed. So,
What do you think Africans think of African Americans as a result of the media?
well, they are somehow misinformed about us as well, just as a lot of us are misinformed about them. You know,
That's why we have BeMoreNews.com, so that we can continue to tell the story from
right,
an
right.
Afrocentric perspective.
That's a good thing because it me being an African American man, yourself is the same. It's troubling how the image of black men around the world is horrifying. When you talk to a lot of Africans from different countries, Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, wherever, Cote d'Ivoire, and when they meet you, they meet you with reservations because they base their whole relationship to you or their whole opinion of you on the media, and that's an unfair
mainstream
assessment.
white
Mainstream
media.
yeah, the media we don't control.
Let me ask you this: the global North is Europe and North America. The global South, South America, Africa, Asia. Quite often, historians note that the wealth of the global North is based on, or it comes out of the global South, i.e., free labor out of Africa and free, if not cheap, minerals from Africa. Gold, diamonds,
Right.
uranium.
Right. Exactly. Ghana, not just Ghana, the entire African continent has vast.
I mean, this country was built on free labor
Of course, of course.
out of
I mean,
Africa.
Yeah, of course. I mean, 40 acres and a mule. That's not untrue. That's not hocus pocus. When people do the history, they'll find out the true meaning behind that. But that's another story. But Ghana, just like all other countries on the African continent, have vast mineral and natural resources, and it's unsettling that the countries on the continent don't benefit to the full extent of from their resources. And I think there needs to be a relationship between blacks in America with Africans on the continent.
There are some.
We need to continue to build that relationship and not have this distrust with one another. Like I just found out today, and we're complaining about gas prices, and we should. A gallon of gas over there in Ghana is $10 a gallon. And it's funny, how can a gallon of gas be $10 a gallon? This is what I'm told. Of course, I'll go to find out for myself. A gallon of gas, $10 a gallon, but yet some of the people live off $5 a day. So you do the math, that doesn't make sense. So a lot of the misconceptions, whether they're true or false, my whole intent is to go and find out for myself. Just as we don't believe in he say, she say, or hearsay, it's good to find out for yourself. My whole purpose for going is to find out for myself. I will be there for 30 days just to evaluate everything, and I'm going to record every single detail.
Any final thoughts?
Well, once this is concluded, I promised you, Donnie, I will be back and give you the first interview, the first coverage of everything that I report while I'm there, because I want to capture everything and eventually upload it on my website so everyone can see it. I want them to see it for free. I want them to see everything and get an understanding as to what's taking place on the country.
Okay, good deal. Keep watching BMoreNews.com, the news before.